So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ann
Mernin.
Mernin from Toni's Kitchen in Montclair to talk a little bit about what you do in the community.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Toni started out as a soup kitchen, a very traditional soup kitchen. It served 3 days a week in the middle of the day. And the schedule for Toni's was coordinated with another food provider in Montclair, the Salvation Army. And the idea was that between the various providers, there would be a meal every day in Montclair. The first thing that we did when we began to revisit our mission and what we were doing and were we being effective is we looked at we had a history of looking at what were our food donations and how could we provide a really terrific meal based on those food donations. We threw that model out and we said, who's in our room? What are their needs? What are their nutritional needs? Because we know that people with food insecurity often have attendant nutritional needs that are different than the general population, or you just see higher concentrations of things like high blood pressure, diabetes. So we began there, and we redid our menus completely to be focused around nutrition and specifically with those particular health issues in mind. So we've introduced a new word recently, which I'm sure you've all heard, food insecurity, right? We used to call it hunger, and now we've been calling it, for the last few years, food insecurity. I actually think of them as two different things, and it goes to your issue of what populations we serve. Hunger is very immediate, right? Hunger is like, I'm hungry now, I need to eat today. Food insecurity is a little different. Food insecurity is I have periods through my year of not having enough food available or not having adequate nutrition available. That it's not. So we have a traditional soup kitchen population as part of the people we serve. So these are people with mental health issues, can't live fully independently, people with substance abuse issues, people with learning disabilities, okay? All of a sudden, we're seeing this big spike in homeless seniors. But families are where it is at in terms of what's going on with our population. If you look at food insecurity, the rise in food insecurity is fastest in the suburbs, right? That's astonishing. We have had a history of referring people who come to soup kitchens to other services. And we did that as Toni's as well. And we were very fortunate because we had mental health services right down the street. We had United Way, we had Salvation Army, do terrific case management, lots of really great services. What we were finding though was that our guest population was not always connecting well with those services. And so we began to wonder why that was and what could we do to change that. And so we began inviting our partner organizations on site. So with families, we try to go out into the community, find where families are gathering for supportive services, and then connect food into that. There are things that help stabilize families and help stabilize children, like a tutoring program, a mentoring program, anything like that. So we worked with our community partners and we began bringing food into those kinds of programs, right? Everyone deserves to have food in their home and it shouldn't be stigmatized, and kids in particular should never feel bad about that. So that's a way where you can get food into a program. It's predictable, it's healthy, families can rely on it, but it's not about food, it's not about charity, it's about the tutoring program that they're going to. Another program that's a small program, but I'm going to point it out because I think it speaks to the power of food. We have had a lot of conversation in Montclair around the relationship between police and the community. they came to us and they said, we're noticing food need in the community. Is there a way we can be helpful? And what started was this really lovely partnership between Tony's Kitchen and the community police, where we will provide the police with food, which they then use in their community policing. They go door to door and they know people by name, and they'll provide a meal or they'll provide groceries and they'll chat. And it's a way of them knowing who it is they're serving. It's a way of teasing out other needs, and certainly has improved relationships. So it's really been a lovely partnership, and it's really just about thinking when you have relationship issues or you're trying to get into a community that's hard to get into, food is a really powerful tool to do that. We, we're a complicated group, I would say, in our dining room. We now serve somewhere between 65 and 85 people a day. And so when we're all gathered together, and we have about 15 volunteers to produce the meal, it's a busy room. We got a lot going on in the room. It can be a little bit complicated. A lot of guests for our on-site meal are people that don't have terrific social skills, who have had a lot of failure in their life, who don't have any confidence coming to a social situation, who come with a lot of barriers. But what I'm always amazed at, every time we have a meal, there's always new people at the meal. And I'm amazed at how the room just sort of envelops them, people welcome them, they help them. And within 2 or 3 visits, they're part of this community. And there's this allowance for them, for all their quirkiness and their oddities. And it's just, so I think food is like that. It's tremendous. It's the most powerful tool we have. And we should embrace that and acknowledge that when we try and solve social problems. Because food is about community. It's about the most fundamental parts of ourselves. So I think food is a real key.